Hi, I'm Jen Stein. I'm your host for Main Line MUFON here at Main Line Public Television. MUFON stands for the Mutual UFO Network. I have been hosting Zoom and live personal educational programs through the Radnor Public Library since 2002. Today, our special guest is filmmaker Randall Nickerson. Randall has been working in the film industry since 1987, first as a stage and film actor and then transitioning into cinematography and ultimately into directing. Randall has shot for many news agencies and for special documentary films. The Ariel Phenomenon is his first feature-length documentary. After much practice in the short-form documentaries, Randall is also a professional commercial nature photographer who has had highly reviewed gallery exhibits both in Manhattan and Massachusetts. His photos have also appeared in several books, including a New York Times bestseller, UFOs, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record, written by a New York Times writer named Leslie Kean. His photography is randallnickersonphotography.com. Randall's film and photographic production company is called String Theory Films, LLC, and can be found at stringtheoryfilmsllc.com. This film, The Ariel Phenomenon, is an award-winning feature-length documentary film recounting the story of 60 schoolyard children who witness a UFO encounter where a UFO lands just adjacent to their playground in Zimbabwe Africa in 1994. The film follows a BBC war reporter and a Harvard psychiatrist, Dr. John Mack, who documented their investigations of this very famous UFO encounter. So we're very pleased today to have Randall come to Philadelphia to screen his film and to join us here at Mainline Television to discuss this incredible film. So welcome, Randall. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
It's been really a pleasure for me to witness your 15-year journey with this film, and also in the UFO field. I think we've known each other for 20 years at least.
I would say that's probably correct, yeah.
And I'm so proud of you. This film is a real tearjerker film when you see it. And having had children of my own, and also having seen a UFO myself, which got us into the UFO encounter, I was very moved and very touched by your film. And I'm very glad to share it tonight. So
great.
Let's talk about the making of this film.
Oh my gosh.
When did you begin?
2007.
So
in September.
How did you meet John Mack? Because I know you were also friends with John Mack.
That's right. After John Mack died, passed away.
2005, I think.
2004.
4, that's right.
I was already making short films and made a film called Silence in the Herd, which was like a 20-minute film for the basically psychologists around the importance of silence and listening. And I showed the Mack family, or people that were involved in the Mack Institute, and they said, "Do you want to do a movie on this incident in Africa?" So I was like, okay, let me, it'd be it's just, when you see the interviews of the kids, which all I had at the time was Dr. Mack's interviews, I was just really fascinated to jump in.
So let's go back to the history of how this event happened. It's 1994, it's Zimbabwe, Africa. Explain briefly what happens and how John Mack gets involved and who the war reporter was.
So it started, there was a bunch of activity in Zimbabwe at the time that for at least 2 weeks where people were reporting things and unusual events. And then there was an event that happened at Ariel School where all these children had witnessed, and some other adults also, this craft in the sky, and then it came down about 100 yards or so behind the school, the Ariel Primary School.
And what time of day was it? And
it was in the morning.
It was in the morning. And all the kids were on the playground, right?
Because most of them. Most of them were. And you have to understand, like, that playground, I've been there 3 times. is massive. It's like a college campus. They have a swimming pool that's half a mile away or a quarter mile away. Everything's very open and a lot of real estate. So there's an upper playground, there's a lower playground, there's a swimming pool area which is quite removed from the rest of it, and then there's all the school buildings for the different classes, and
it's surrounded by fields and woods, right?
it's surrounded by a UNESCO heritage site because of the history goes back so far around there, and then there's a village behind it, the school, and there's a village across the street also. So.
And this was a missionary school, correct? Or many missionary children were there?
Yes, but it was started by the farmers, the local farmers, who were sending their children to the city in Harare, and they didn't want to do that anymore. So they started their own private school, not registered until it was already running well and good, and they, you had missionary kids there, you had kids from the village, you had, it's a beautiful school. It's quite a mix of races and religions, and it's a beautiful place.
A real melting pot.
Yeah.
So it's about 10 in the morning, the kids are all outside, most of the teachers are having a meeting.
Correct.
And go back to what actually transpires.
So then they see this thing in the air, several people did initially, and then there's a whole commotion down by the edge of the playground, and that's where most of this occurred.
So it's like a disc-shaped craft that lands.
Yep.
And
these things get out. So people, you have to understand, like, this is a playground. So there's people on the upper playing field doing stuff. There's people playing on the lower playing ground. There's the kids, the really young kids, grade ones. They have, the swing sets and different, all the toys are there. And this happened, so everybody had a different perspective. But what began to happen were people gathering at the edge of the field to look at it as these things approached them, the kids. There were quite a few things that happened during that time. These large-eyed, black, skin-tight suit type creatures that were about the size of a 10-year-old. It proceeded from there. There's so much, like the sounds that they heard, how they felt, that's all in the movie. I think it'd be too much to explain that.
Of course.
But they... got to a point where they all got terrified and ran into the teacher's room to tell them what they had seen. And some of the two teachers went out to see. And one of those teachers did see something. And I believe another one, unfortunately, she's passed away, so I can't speak for her. But I know she was there, and apparently, and all the children had told me she saw it as well. Unfortunately, wasn't able to speak with her. So anyway, so then the school didn't necessarily believe them, the kids, right? It was actually the kids going home, telling their parents, and then one of the parents called a friend at the BBC, and he called Dr. John Mack that Friday, that very same day.
He actually, this BBC reporter came out and interviewed the kids first, right?
He was the first one on the scene, correct, yep. And he was a war reporter in Africa for like a dozen years, and he was just coming off a case and then get this call. He'd heard about the other incidents and things that were being reported, but the school was the kind of a main event. So he went, yep.
So was there an effort to debunk this subject right away in Africa? Did the news really deal with it?
Not really, no. I mean, if anybody was trying to debunk it, it was the school itself. They were not... they just wanted it to go away, and then they realized that wasn't going to happen.
So John Mack shows up and he brings some camera people with him, correct?
Yes.
And explain for the listening audience who John Mack is, because some people may not know.
Well, okay. Before we get to John Mack, though, there were reporters the BBC went out there first, and then another set of reporters went out from SABC, interviewed the kids.
We saw this black figure running.
His face was like this, and his eyes were down here.
I just thought it was some kind of alien from a different planet.
And some of the parents did not believe their children.
That's
correct?
true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the main characters of the film's family was quite disturbed
That's
by
true.
this.
That's very true.
So I think John Mack was the first one that pulled out pencil and paper and crayons and said, draw what
No.
you saw? No?
No, it was the school, it was the parents' concern about what happened. The parents were pretty taken aback, like, what did you do to our kids? And so the headmaster had, on the following Monday morning, had separated all the classes and left the grade 1s and 2s out because they were really traumatized. So those kids were not asked to draw. And so the kids drew what they saw. There were 62 drawings, and kind of what's interesting about the pictures is everybody was from a different, depending on where they were, their perspective.
A different perspective.
Yep. So those were fascinating. That kind of really, that's when Cynthia Hind came in, and a MUFON investigator. She came in. John Mack came in. The BBC reporter was just fascinated because he didn't even think this was any of it was real. And yet he had all these kids that he believed that were telling him this stuff, the occurrence. Okay, what else?
Well, we are sitting here at a very interesting day.
That is true.
Because today there were congressional hearings.
Third one.
The third major congressional hearing
That's
took
right.
place, and I hear it was quite powerful.
That's what I'm hearing as well. It was very powerful today.
So
I was supposed to be there, actually, so.
You were at the first two hearings,
I was at the
correct?
first two.
Have you testified yourself
Not yet.
or not? Okay.
No, I'm waiting for that day. Yeah.
So obviously you have also taken an interest in this. Are you comfortable talking about where your interest began in the UFO subject, just a little bit?
Oh, just that I had a couple events that
Catapulted your awareness.
yeah. And at the same time, when you see something like that, it just changes your whole perspective of
Yes.
what's important in life. Because I had very different ideas until realizing that there's something else going on here.
Most experiencers sit in the same shoes. It's you cannot put the air back in the balloon once the balloon's been popped.
That's correct.
And so then your life changes and takes a different trajectory.
That's correct. And it wasn't one that I wanted. It was just, I was presented with a fact that I didn't want to know, yet it changed everything. Changes out your perspective. Like, okay, nobody taught me this one in school.
Right. So you actually also got involved in some UFO groups as well, if I'm not mistaken. You knew Bud Hopkins, and you did some work with Bud Hopkins and my good friend Peter Robbins in New York.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about who Bud Hopkins was and how you knew Bud? You can say no.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's
People
just,
can research him.
Yeah. No, Bud Hopkins was a very good friend. And somebody that helped me quite a bit with my own issues around this subject. Yeah, just great. I've been behind the scenes for a long time and not necessarily looking for the spotlight, but still working, on whatever it takes for us to get on track.
Yeah, trying to help people understand this perspective because it is It is a new one. It is a new one. Once you accept
and it's critical.
Once you accept and understand that we're most likely not the only intelligence in the universe, and that they've probably been visiting Earth or interacting with us as humans, or maybe even interbreeding with us as humans for many thousands of years. It's a new perspective to wrap your brain around. And it does challenge traditional religious and historical stories or memes that we are taught.
Yeah.
And it is something that's often very buried and debunked as a way of attempting to bury it.
Yes.
So as a filmmaker myself, I understand the tactics that are employed to try to silence people and discredit people. Would you like to speak at all about that journey that you have had yourself? I mean, you've been on Oprah. You've spoken openly about your family sighting with your sister. And you're considered to be a very credible witness. And you have also experienced this ridicule firsthand.
That's true. So, it's just...
it's kind of ongoing. It kind of follows you like a shadow.
Right. Yeah, it does. And that's not what you want, necessarily at all. And it's apparent that there's has been a cultural pushback, but even more so, a governmental military pushback because of concern for. Concern about how the public's going to react to this.
Right.
Which I understand. I actually get it. But
I've witnessed this.
It's been a secret kept for quite a long time.
Yes. Well, I've witnessed this myself firsthand, having produced the film Travis. I realize that we now can talk about craft in the sky because this is what Luis Elizondo left the Pentagon announcing with the aerial threat identification program that he ran. We can talk about the craft in the sky, how they seem to operate intelligently, how they can outmaneuver our own jet aircraft, but we cannot talk about contact. We cannot talk about intelligence. We can't talk about a shift in consciousness or what it's like to be in contact with an extraterrestrial being. And Travis has experienced this firsthand as well. This film and Travis's story has been highly debunked on YouTube videos and podcasts and television shows from the beginning.
Yeah.
We no longer have Philip Klass living, but he was a major debunker who I really believe was a paid debunker and one of our first well-known paid debunkers. Because he went to all the UFO conferences, recorded them all, and then anyone who discussed contact, like Peter Robbins, or you, or Travis, or Betty and Barney Hill, he went after them directly.
He was on a show with me.
Oh wow!
I met him. Yeah, so not a big fan, and his job. He was paid to do a certain job.
Yeah, it's there are archives, interesting archives in Philadelphia here at the American Philosophical Society. And I had the pleasure of going to those archives with Stanton Friedman and Kathleen Martin and reading his letters and his documents. And there were amazingly letters back and forth between Ed Condon and Donald Menzel, who was the head of astronomy at Harvard and wrote books debunking the UFO subject. And of course, Ed Condon ran the Condon Report, which tried to squelch the whole issue after they closed Blue Book. So it continues to be an ongoing issue. Really does.
I think the concern was that when they really realized what was happening, I think the concern was valid of potentially public panic. I agree with that in a sense, but it's been going on for quite a long time. Quite a lot, 70 years or 80 years. I think it's, why did they not put a lot of that energy into getting us used to the idea that we're not the only ones out here?
Well, in one way, maybe they have, because there has been a movement in Hollywood, of course, to bring up the subject and to have, mega films about, Independence Day, how they try to conquer us and we conquer them. And there's, it's all over news and marketing. I mean, we picked up a can of beer the other day and there's an alien abducting an apple pie. So it's all over the place when you really think about it. It's in our marketing, it's in our culture.
Oh, it is.
It's in our advertising.
It's just not accurate. Some of it is, some of it's accurate. And it's almost like,
yes, it's
through
like,
fiction, tell a little bit of the truth.
Right. Through fiction, tell a little bit.
Yeah.
And gradually get people acclimated. So do you think there is an agenda down the road that this mainstream media would like us to absorb? Are you afraid of a false flag operation, or do you think that's a potential where we could be told we're being invaded? And,
I don't think that's what the case is.
Well, I don't either. I don't either. But many people are predicting, beware of a false flag.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. Well,
yes, if your government tells you you're being invaded and we have to unite the world against, these evil aliens, don't you think they would have, if they wanted to wipe us off the face of the earth, they could have done it many years ago?
Yeah, of course.
So we may have a significant relationship with them that we haven't fully come into our conscious awareness of.
I think that's likely. And I don't think our ideas as our species, or when you're dealing with something that's evolved long before us, and maybe for who knows how many millions of years, I doubt they're going to be looking at us as a
threat.
Right. Or that they are going to be a threat to us, at least in the way they portray it. A lot of times, we've got a lot to unpack with this, and this is the thing about the whole issue: is it involves history, it involves religion, it involves our entire past to re-examine,
and the entire past of the earth as well.
Right.
The history of man and the history of the earth.
And that's a big can of worms to open. So I understand it. I just think it's time that, because, even though I concentrated on this one event, there are tens of thousands of events all over the world, and there's probably an event happening right now in some country I don't even know. So it's something that we live with whether we know it or not. And the quicker we get to, understanding it, having the truth told to us about what we're encountering by the powers that be, the quicker we can actually work together to try to understand it. My concern has always been, if knowing what they can do, seeing what they can do, many other people have as well, they have the capability to decide our fate. And I think it's important that all of us are on that effort to understand and understand what they're here for, our history with them. As much as we can know about them, the better. That's just being smart as a species,
Right. So one of the things that I always thought was very interesting about your film in particular is it gives people a perspective of encounters, because these children, many of them were children at the time, and they had interpreted messages like we were just speaking about. They were kind of given messages about the environment and what to be concerned about, and it impacted them heavily as children. And you go back and recapture this by interviewing them again as adults. And they have never, ever, ever forgotten some of the information they've been told.
Yeah.
So as a filmmaker, how did that impact you, seeing their journey from 5 and 6, from being a 5th grader to then being, an adult and married with their own kids?
I was just, many interviews I had with them, I left with chills, really, because a lot of the interviews I had, but that were not available in public whatsoever. So they didn't know what they said when they were kids. And I wanted to keep it that way, so so I'd get a fresh perspective, but they remembered it very, very well. Exactly what they saw and what they remembered. And
what type of messages did they get about, from these beings? And you want to recount some of them?
Just about what we were doing to the planet, our technological development, and that it could get us in trouble. There were a whole bunch of different messages, but it was all around the same thing, our own survival for our own species. Like it was almost like they were sharing a perspective, their perspective of where they think we're going in not such a good way.
Right.
There were a bunch of kids that had that happen, and some didn't want to speak with me about it, particularly the males. Interesting, like the difference between a male witness and a female witness is pretty distinct, at least, as far as what they wanted to share, and what they were embarrassed to talk about. I found the females much more open. Yep.
Do you think it's possible that these beings could be coming back in time and trying to warn us about the future so that we might be able to change it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mike Masters.
Oh, I know.
Saying,
I do. I do know
Mike Masters.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily. Every time I hear a theory about time travel or they're from this planet, it's distract, or they're on another dimension. I just like, all right.
It's too much.
We don't even have to go there.
Yeah.
We have to. We people are witnessing these things, and that's where we need to start. We'll figure all that stuff out later.
Right. If we can begin to accept the facts as they are, then we can begin to figure it out going forward.
And a million questions need to be asked. There's no doubt about that. And if this is a species that's been around for millions of years, it's likely they've traveled and probably seen planets just like ours in different parts of the galaxy or different parts of the universe. So they have an entire knowledge base that we just can't have, or don't have, because we haven't even got out of our solar system yet. So that's we have a lot to ask, and I would believe to try to establish some kind of communication if it hasn't been done already.
Right. And there might be something to say for the fact that there's a reason why we haven't gotten out of our solar system, and they might have something to do with it.
Yeah,
we seem to be a warlike creature in our own way, in what we do here on the planet. There seems to always be a major war going on, and we might need to think a little differently about our behavior if we're going to venture out into the greater galaxy.
I think that's probably true. Like, because we may be, that real estate may not be ours.
Right. So the name of the film is the Ariel Phenomenon.
Ariel Phenomenon, yeah.
And just the Ariel Phenomenon.
Ariel Phenomenon.
Where can people see this film right now if they want? Where is it available for them?
It's available on Amazon, and it is available on Apple TV, and I believe iTunes as well. And if you can, at our website, arielphenomenon.com, you can, there's a wealth of information there about the case, about where you can see it, and more detailed explanations. And I felt like we needed to do as much of that as possible because of the oddity of the subject matter, or at least in the past it's been that way.
Right.
It's interesting, since I started the film and now, like we were editing when the New York Times article came out, and we have a TV up here. The editing screens are all over the place here, but we have TVs up here, and it comes on the news, and we're editing the film as it's live news is happening.
And you're watching Luis Elizondo on the nightly news. And Leslie Keane.
It was just like, wow, because before that time, it was hard to get even crew to work on the film. And I wanted crew that were professionals. Like Chris Seward was, he did Fahrenheit 9/11. He worked for Michael Moore forever. And he's fantastic. One of the best editors I've ever met. And he, to get people like that, or just a crew, because, it took a lot of, I had to show them the videos of the kids. Like, are these kids lying? Tell me. And then I started getting crew, but it was hard. It was hard before the 2017. And then all of a sudden, everybody was interested. Not everybody, but, in the
People
entertainment.
wanted to jump on board.
They did.
Right.
They realized, wow, this is such a great story. And I'm like, yeah, I've known that since 2007. But it was, and anyway, things started to shift quite a bit. So.
Now, I understand there's been one young man, now an adult, who's been in the press, who actually wasn't present at the time, but claims that he was, or he didn't see anything and claims he did. He's kind of been out there being a bit of a naysayer on the subject.
Yeah. So So another production decided to
make a film on the subject.
Participate with, exactly, and also have him as on it. And I had interviewed him, for 2 days, and I have no question he actually did see the beginning part of it. I have no question about that. But he left the scene right after that. In his own words, he's like, so... He
ran into the school. He didn't see it. He didn't
see the aftermath of what he initially saw. I totally believe that he saw them in the beginning, and then so he had some angst about other people having gone into it, having witnessed more. Anyway, it's fine. It's just interesting that because I didn't include that person because none of the original investigators interviewed him because he wasn't a credible witness for what they were looking for as far as details, because you'd just seen the beginning when it was in the sky. That was interesting. Like, why would that production want to emphasize that at all when you have hundreds of people that saw it, adults included, and they focused on a person that, I still care about all these. In a weird way, it's like they're my,
like your kids or your family, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of, because I spent so much time trying to find out who's who, how was their relationships in school, who knew who, I was trying to figure out all so I don't hold anything against him. It's just the production I find interesting. Why did they do that? Like, of all the people, that's not the person I would have put forward at all.
So you've experienced and suspect there is some deliberate debunking.
I absolutely do. Yeah. Absolutely do.
Yes, I've experienced it too.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about going to Zimbabwe. It's not a particularly easy place to get to. And passports and visas are hard to get to go into the country. And
I wasn't supposed to be in the country.
That's what I was going to ask.
When I first went, it was the State Department. There were State Department warnings, and then they...
Is that because of tribal warfare going on?
No, it was political violence over the elections coming up, and it was dangerous. The New York Times reporter who stayed in the city in Harare the same time I was there, he got arrested, put in jail, because there was not supposed to be any Western journalists. So I come in with all this equipment, and with Nikki Carter, who's, God bless her, she went in with me, and we had to separate all the equipment, put it in all different bags so nothing was together, so they couldn't figure out. I didn't even take a tripod because that would have given me away. I figured I'll get there, I'll find a tripod, which is exactly what I did. Wasn't the best one, but whatever. I had to do it. Otherwise, I would never have been able to get in and out of the country. And I was worried once I shot a lot of the footage initially. That was visit 1, not a 3. But I was afraid I was never going to get that footage out. of the country. And then when I got on the plane to leave Zimbabwe, the State Department was on my plane, sitting right next to me, because they evacuated the embassy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. And people were getting, you know.
So that was your first trip in 90...
No,
2000.
08.
2008.
Yeah.
And then you went back 2 more times, correct? Mm-hmm. And you took one of the kids back with you, right?
That's right. I took Emily back, yeah.
And there was some type of, was there a planned reunion going on, or was the reunion planned?
No, there was a reunion. It was a small one, and I really wanted that to happen, like a real reunion for all those kids. It hasn't happened yet, but
not that many of them showed up. Just a few came, and
there were a lot of people still there. Some still in Zimbabwe.
But then you also traveled around, both in the United States and in Canada.
And Europe.
Tracking down these.
Right, and Africa, finding the kids as adults, yeah. That took a long time to, find them, build trust. Like, I'm not here to make you guys look like fools, or as long as you guys are telling me the truth, I want to, I'll do justice. If you're telling me the truth, I'll do justice by your story. And that's what I found. Yeah.
Have you found, too, that you probably have enough material to do a mini-series or another documentary if you wanted? Yes.
Hundreds of hours of work. Yeah.
I found as a filmmaker myself, it's almost more important what you don't include in the first film as what you do include. It's like a honing process of...
It is.
This is the most important thing I need to tell right now.
Right. So with Ariel, we had villagers, we had chiefs, we had medicine men, we had government people, we had a whole bunch of other adult witnesses, and we had to decide what's the movie. I mean, so we focused on the kids. But there are so many other things that were going on. There was the space shuttle was up in orbit at that time. We were doing a never done before spacewalk on that day.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So I just actually was down in Huntsville, Alabama, and those backpacks that they had on that day are in the museum, in the Space Museum down there.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that's another whole story that we could have added to the story, or there were so many avenues to cover that even the making of is, that's what I'd like to do too, is just the making of, because we shot everything. We had we got a visit from the Zimbabwe Special Forces in the middle of the night. I mean, there's so many things that happened to us as a crew, or me,
Wow. And there's also some indigenous elders there, and a very big ancient site, a large rock structure.
Right. It's a UNESCO heritage site.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that and some of the chiefs that you met with, because they weren't surprised.
Not
by
at
the
all.
Story. So fill us in on that.
Well, yeah, surrounding Ariel School is a UNESCO heritage site of this old ancient, Zimbabwean. The chiefs are buried there, like
a whole
right
series
by the school.
of chiefs.
A whole series going back thousands of years. So, one of the things I did was speak to a lot of the different tribal chiefs. They're oh my gosh, I can forget it.
You're just having a senior moment.
I guess
okay.
So. So I spoke to the chiefs and the medicine men, and they were very aware of these creatures. They see them.
They had seen them before.
They had seen them before. I was pretty surprised by that, because I'm filming a movie about Ariel, and just having a chief there, and I want to stop everything and go sit with him. Sit with him for a long time, because I know he's seen them. He's describing them, in great detail. He was like, one of the things he said was like, with this particular chief, he's like, oh, they're never alone. They always have compadres with them. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? I'm thinking in my mind, he's like, he had to see them to know that, and he's describing it like he had. So plenty of chiefs had said, yeah, we know them. They come in different variations, but they were very familiar with them and very surprised that we are still questioning in the Western world their existence. That wasn't ready for that.
Now, they knew about the Ariel school landing.
Oh, everybody knows about it over there. Everybody knows about that event over in Africa. You'd be going to some restaurant or something, and then mention Ariel. Like, oh, the Ariels. They all know. That was a big deal in Africa. Forget about the press it got after that, but it's just in Africa. That story is
right.
Been around. There's other incidents. There's quite a few incidents in Africa of this nature that we never hear about.
So there were some other famous stories from the regional area.
Radar, there's not a lot of radar coverage at all in Africa. So that I find interesting, and it's vast. People really don't understand how big Africa is. It's massive. And even though there's borders, Tim said this to me, the BBC reporter, even though there's borders, they don't really exist in a way. There's nobody there to guard it,
right.
Unless you're on a main road. So
you don't know when you've crossed from one region into another, or one country into another.
Sometimes, unless you're on the main road where there's the
some kind of
the gates,
kind of gate. Wow. You have any desire to go back?
I'd love to go back. I'd love to go back. It's a beautiful country. All of it. I went around to Zambia and Botswana and South Africa and Namibia and Zimbabwe. It's beautiful. It's you got to be careful for sure over there. But it's a stunning place. The wildlife alone, And that's too, the other thing I found really interesting is this story's happening amongst, in a place where the most crazy wildlife exists.
So that was one of my questions too. We have many animal mutilation stories here from the United States with cows and deer and horses and things like that are found with, part of their internal organs gone. Do we have that going on in Zimbabwe or in Africa?
It wouldn't surprise me. That wasn't my focus.
Gotcha. So you're not.
But I know we had all the different types of close encounters, including abductions. They all happen there. I interviewed people, separate from Ariel in the movie, for another movie I was going, planning. So everything that exists over here, I found over there, but I didn't get into mutilations or crop circles or anything.
Yeah, it's just too far afield. You can't cover it all.
Can't cover it all.
So next question
Not without more time.
About the Ariel School itself and the teachers that work there. Has these encounters reoccurred, or did you uncover evidence that this was not the first incident that the teachers experienced themselves?
One of the teachers, yes. And the kids that they don't want me to talk about. I'm still in touch with quite a few of the children that were there, now adults.
So even some of them have had some ongoing contact?
Correct, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it. That's been interesting, but I didn't want to talk about that. They didn't want me to talk about it, so.
Gotcha.
And I felt like, let's just talk about that incident, that initial incident. Yeah.
Well, you want to keep their trust. I more than understand.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't just. If people to trust you, you can't hit them over
trust.
Break their trust. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow. So has this changed your perspective on the UFO subject since you started this film? Has there been like a misconception or a smaller idea you had that's now expanded? How has it affected your own consciousness?
I think part of it was to realize it's happening everywhere. The other part that I found out in the process of filming where there were other people very interested in this topic. Some of the people I went to visit told me, like, oh yeah, there was a team from the United States that came over, and I'm like, who? He's like, there was a government, U.S. government. I'm like, they don't have a UFO
research group.
Right. I was shocked. I'm like, I heard that.
Wow.
And I also went and visited the Air Force at South Africa, different countries, and spoke to them, and they were very open with me. And like, what are you doing here? Because all the answers are in your own country.
Wow.
And they started giving me a little bit of information, and I went down investigating that, and I was pretty shocked to know that our people know. And I was pretty upset, actually, at the same time. Like,
I understand this is not the only schoolyard incident.
No, by far.
I think there were 5. Do you know what they were?
Oh, I think there are more. But Westall, Broadhaven was my study case.
And Broadhaven was in
Wales.
England? In Wales,
yeah.
okay.
So I went to Wales for a week and talked to those guys, interviewed several people there.
There was a
collected all their drawings because it was.
Oh, okay.
They were in the Historical Society, which thank God had all those kids' drawings because I wanted to compare them to the aerial drawings, and they're very similar to
when
that.
was the Broad Hills?
1977.
1977. Okay, and then I think there was
Westall was 1966.
And that's England.
That was Australia.
Australia.
Yep.
Then there was West Hill as well, which was I think somewhere in the UK.
Yeah.
There's a West Hill school in the UK that had a sighting in the 60s. Westall in South Africa, or in Australia.
That's Australia. Yeah.
Australia, and then there was, I think, one in Mexico as well, and one in South America.
Yeah, and one in Russia.
And one in Russia.
There was one in Florida and one in California that I'm aware of.
Oh, wow.
So I've been collecting all these newspaper articles through a friend of mine, actually. He's been sending me all these things through MUFON, or not through MUFON, but another organization, of these kind of incidents. And what's fascinating to me is their primary schools, elementary school age, so 8 to 12 or 8 to 13. It's an interesting age to intervene into,
Right. And the fact that it's a schoolyard.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I thought about immediately is like, well, their parents aren't there. I mean, if you're going to take puppies from somebody, you want to make sure that mama dog's not around, right? Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That kind of struck me like, oh, yeah, the kid, that's an interesting place to do that rather than the home.
Right. But I don't think there were abductions that happened from school, were they?
Not that I'm aware of,
right.
Yeah. Not that I'm aware
but
of.
it's like a group of kids seeing them, so they can't deny it. They saw it.
Right.
They all saw it together.
Yep.
It's kind of like a very interesting group sighting.
True. Yep. And I just find it interesting that that's a place where it's,
Well, school is a place you go to learn.
That's true.
Learning is,
that is true.
Maybe a little more broadly than they thought they would,
Yeah.
but...
So the abduction thing, like, these kids, this incident in Ariel went on for 15 minutes. So I didn't even go down the abduction trail whatsoever. It didn't matter to me. These were firsthand witnesses, and they are saying what they saw. Didn't need to. People were saying, well, why don't you hypnotize? And I was like, I don't need to do any of that or want to. Just drawing a blank.
Well, that's sort of a darker subject as well when you get into abductions. And
Correct.
what you were really trying to do, as I feel in the film, is just verify that these kids saw what they saw.
Yeah.
They haven't forgotten it. It was the most profound thing that ever happened to them in their elementary school years. And it's still a very profound
in their
thing.
lives.
Yeah.
I think everybody I've ever met, like when they've had an encounter with these things, they never forget it.
They never forget it. That's right.
And they can remember it like it was yesterday. That's just common because I don't know how many people I've met. Probably 1,000 people that have seen these things. And after a while, it's the same
That's
they're telling you the same information.
Story.
It's not the same story exactly, but they're seeing the same thing. That's I'm sure you've had that.
Oh, I have. I've been running MUFON educational programs now for about 25 years.
Yeah, after a while, it's just...
Usually people will show up for maybe 3, 4, 5 meetings, or maybe a couple months. And then gradually they'll reach out to me, contact me, say, can we have lunch? Can we have dinner? And many of them are doctors, lawyers, principals, scientists, university professors. They have very conservative lives, but they're desperate to tell somebody. Yeah. And I'll meet with them. They give me their story. They print it up. I don't do anything with it. You have to make your own report to MUFON if you want to. So I encourage them to do that, and I respect them for coming to share with me, but they just really want to tell their story. Yeah. They want someone to hear them. And they'll say, I experienced this with my wife, but now she doesn't remember it, or she won't acknowledge it, or we can't discuss it. So memory changes over time for people, and many people just can't wrap their brain around it, and they distance themselves from the experience or from the memory because they just don't know how to deal with it in their rational adult lives.
Mm-hmm. There's nowhere to go. Yeah.
Right.
For that either.
Right.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot. A lot of people, when I was doing that, they knew I was doing a documentary. So I'd have people come up to me and, randomly they heard that I was doing this and they came up to me to share their story. Right. But it was always like, do not tell anybody. Right. Right. I'm sharing it with you because I haven't shared it with anybody. But then there's that.
I get the
please don't share.
I get the exact same
I'm sure
thing.
you do.
And that's why, as a filmmaker, even though I've been volunteering for MUFON for 25 years, I do not do interviews with people for MUFON because I'm a filmmaker, and because those two careers or those two jobs or those two hats or titles do not intersect. I respect people's privacy when they want to share something with me, but if they've agreed to an interview and they're okay with me sharing their information, that's a totally different way about going about it. So I completely understand. I really do.
Yeah, because the consequences
are huge.
They're huge.
Huge.
And some people realize that and some people don't. But
that's right. And the more you spend...
But why would it, the more, if it tells you a lot about what's real. They're not out for their self-aggrandizement or success or money. They don't even want to tell anyone. They definitely don't want it to go public. Right. And that tells you a lot.
That's right. That's huge. That's huge. Well, I am so thrilled to have had you come today and come down to do the screening of the film. Sure. I want people watching to, again, know where they can see your film and if they want to reach out to you, how they can reach you. So, again, they can see the film on Amazon Prime? Amazon
in general.
Right. Okay.
And at Apple TV and... I believe we're still on iTunes. Okay. We're still looking for major worldwide distribution, which was the goal initially. And the business it's been very interesting. Long story. But people will find out pretty soon why. Also, arielphenomenon.com. You can kind of find everything that you need there to find the film or more information about the incident. There's still more about this incident. So since the movie came out, there have been 3 witnesses that I couldn't find that have come forward.
Oh, wow.
Validating that story. So, and there's more. I knew when I was shooting, I'm like, oh boy, once this comes out, it's going to give permission for all the witnesses, not just kids, the adults that saw this thing. They will come out, and sure enough, that's what's happening. So it's just... And it's funny because some of these people I was looking for years. It took me 2 years to find the BBC reporter. Like, it was hard to find these people. It was right. It was right at the beginning of Facebook, right? So it wasn't so easy to find people. And Facebook actually really helped enormously at that time. But there were people I could not find, particularly people that were in the village, or the villages nearby. And those are the people I was really interested in because, well, just partly because of their upbringing, animism and a different religious perspective, yet they saw the same thing that that
the kids saw.
The missionaries saw,
And the missionaries
or the politician's
Chiefs.
daughter, So that was fascinating, and I wanted to find more of them. And they're coming out on their own, which is great. It's like, oh, that guy, I was looking for him for years.
So
this
sounds like
one woman, I'm still looking for her.
Okay.
She's Charity Shandell. Please call me. Please email me. She was I'd love to interview her as a witness, and I have not been able to find her. I hope she's okay. And I got to say, we lost Emily Trim, which was our...
Heartbreaking.
It was
Really
heartbreaking. And my heart goes out to the family because it's nothing I can hurt and other friends of hers can hurt, but the family, it's a different kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And I really love her family. Her family is amazing. I spent some time with them. Mm-hmm. Just an unexpected tragedy in a sense. But all I have for her, she was so inquisitive and brave. She was so brave to just volunteer and say, I want to tell this story. And
for the viewing audience, your film kind of focuses in on her as one of many students, but it kind of is the main key focal point, is Emily's journey, her ability to finally accept it, even though her family really did not want her to discuss it.
That's correct.
And they couldn't even discuss it around the dinner table until you started this film.
That's right. When I was up there filming, Emily and her whole family were at dinner, and her father brought it up for the first time. And I'm looking like
shoot, I should have the camera going.
Oh my God. Seriously, I was like, it was such a big deal. It was a huge deal for everybody there.
But you caught Emily talking about it the next day.
That's right.
That's right. I said, did you hear when my dad actually brought it up?
That was a big deal.
That was huge for her.
It was huge.
That was a landmark movement for them within their family.
Correct.
They were missionaries. They were very conservative, very strict religious beliefs, and it was not to be discussed. In fact, that's why the family left Zimbabwe immediately after this incident happened.
That's right.
Was it her younger brother that...
older brother, yeah.
Her older brother just could not handle it.
Correct. Yeah, I wanted to interview him, but he was just didn't want to speak about it.
As you say, the men can't quite talk about it.
That's what I found. The other thing is, you have. I just want to say, because Emily, the reason we went, focused on Emily was, she was just rediscovering this part of her life, and she was
doing artwork with it.
Oh yeah, she was trying to. Really piece together and understand what happened to her. It was perfect that way. And also she was in Toronto, which was close.
Right.
Because everybody was either in Australia. There were so many people there scattered everywhere. But she was just brave. Really, she was an amazing person, really.
Well,
so curious.
As people will see when they watch the film.
Yeah.
They will really begin to understand what it was like for these children and what it's like for many people.
If you listen to what their descriptions are, that's pretty much what everybody notices.
That's right.
The different ways time behaves.
And how memory behaves.
The sounds. Details. The telepathic communication without words, that's very common.
That's right.
And they experience that. How do you even, I love when she says, one of the kids, she's like, how did they get that across to you? And she says, I think it came into my unconscious.
Right.
Like she didn't know the word
Right.
telepathy
Right.
or anything
Right.
like that, but she actually
Knew the word
kind of nailed it.
She did.
Like
Yeah.
that they were speaking to her
Yeah.
in another way.
Yeah.
Because John and other investigators asked, did their mouths move or did they
Right.
say anything? And it's
Right.
like,
How
no, they
did you
didn't say
know?
anything.
Right.
They didn't say anything, but I knew.
Yes.
Or I was shown.
John
you know?
was an excellent interviewer, as are you, Randall. I really want to give you credit and acknowledgement for this wonderful film. And I'm
you.
so grateful that you came here to Radnor Studio
Yeah.
to share your story.
This is a great studio. I'm like very impressed. Like,
Yes.
it's really
And
good.
I'm so looking forward to the screening tonight.
too.
So anyone who's watching, if you'd like to learn more about the film, please look up arielphenomenon.com.
Yep.
You can look up Randall Nickerson as well.
Yeah, there's
Google
a
him.
ton of interviews
You'll
out there at
find
this point.
information on Randall.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you
This has
so
been a
much.
great interview.
Yeah, you too. It's been nice to know you for so many years and the work that you've done.
Yes.
Absolutely. I really salute that. And I know how dedicated you are. All I can do is salute you and say,
Ditto. It's
Thank you.
a mutual admiration.
yeah, it's nice when
It really
people do
is.
the hard work and
That's right.
it's for the right reasons.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks for joining us at Main Line MUFON, and please feel free to look us up. We have regular Zoom meetings you can check in on anytime.